Welcome to the English Learner Data mini webinar. The Best for All strategic plan sets academics, student readiness, and educators at our core. Our agenda today, we will discuss the English learner identification process and English language background classifications. We'll look at the English learner background classifications, summary, anticipated progression, and reclassification, state funding and federal reporting, checking data in EIS, suggestions to improve data quality, and contact information. Let's begin with our English learner identification process and English language background classifications. When students enter school, their families complete a home language survey. When the survey indicates that only English is spoken by the student or within the student is identified as a native English speaker and coded with the E English Language Background Classification. When the survey indicates a language other than English is spoken by the student or within the student is screened for proficiency in English, and the results of the screening determine the student's English language background classification. If the screening indicates that the student is proficient in English, the student does not qualify for English as a second language services. The student is identified as having a non-English language background and is coded with the N or NELB English language background classification, which is defined as first language is not English and the student never qualified for ESL services. If the screening indicates that the student is not proficient in English, the student qualifies for ESL services, and the student is identified as an English learner and is coded with the L English language background classification, which is defined as first language is not English and qualifies for direct ESL services. If the parent or guardian of an English learner chooses to waive direct ESL services, the student is coded with the W English language background classification, which is defined as English learner who declined direct ESL services in order to receive ESL services in a regular classroom. If a language other than English appears on a pre-K student's home language survey, the English language background is entered as N or NELB, non-English language background. The status is revisited in kindergarten when the screening occurs, and it is changed to L or W if the student is not proficient in English, following the steps described above. Yearly, Tennessee requires that we assess progress in learning English. English learners, those coded L and W, will take the ELPA 21 assessment each spring to measure their progress in learning English. Students who score below the exit threshold continue to receive ESL services and retain the L or W English language background classification and are tested annually until they meet the exit criteria. Students who score at or above the exit threshold on the ELPA 21 in the spring begin their transition from ESL the following school year and are coded as T1 or 1 the first transition year from ESL the following school year. The English language background classification changes to T1 or 1 only for the first transition year from ESL, not for the current year or for the prior years. The transition from ESL is a 4-year process. There is an English language background classification for each year. T1 or 1 is transitional year 1, the first transition year from ESL. T2 or 2 is transitional year 2, the second transition year from ESL. T3 or 3 is transitional year 3, the third transition year from ESL. T4 or 4 is transitional year 4, the fourth year transition from ESL. If the transition process occurs without interruptions, the 5th year after exiting ESL, the student becomes a former English learner and is coded as F, which is defined as former EL status attained upon completion of the 4th transitional year. To summarize the English language background classification, English learner, or L, first language is not English and qualifies for direct English as a second language services. Waived direct ESL services, or W, means an English learner who declined direct ESL services in order to receive ESL services in a regular classroom. Transition year 1, which is T1 or 1, is the first transition year from ESL. Transitional year 2 is T2 or 2, which is the second transition year from ESL. Transitional year 3, which is T3 or 3, is the third transition year from ESL. Transitional year 4, which is T4 or 4, is the fourth transition year from ESL. Former English learner, or F, means former EL status attained upon completion of the fourth transitional year. Non-English background, N or NELB, means the first language is not English and the student never qualified for ESL. NELB students are screened for English language proficiency because a language other than English appears on the home language survey. Do not screen for English language proficiency unless a language other than English appears on the original home language survey. For additional details, please see the FPO Data Manual and the EIS Data Dictionaries Appendix E, English Language Background. The anticipated progression for English language background classifications. Students who progress as expected and were classified in the current year as E or N have the same code in prior and future years. Students who were classified in the current year as L or W were L or W the prior year and will be L, W, or 1 the next year, depending on the ELPA 21 assessment results. Students who were classified in the current year as 1 were L or W in the prior year and will be 2 the following year. If a student was classified as 2, 3, or 4 in the current year, or 1, 2, or 3 in the prior year, and will be 3, 4, or F the following year, respectively. Students who were classified F in the current year were 4 or F in the prior year and will be F the following year. Students who struggle in transition may re-enter ESL and be reclassified as L or W. Upon subsequent exit from ESL, they will restart the transition process in the first transition year from ESL, and will be coded as 1 or T1 the year after exit. All students should receive the services they need to be successful, regardless of English language background. Four English language background classifications determine the English learner portion of state TISA funding. English Learner, or L, Wave Direct ESL Services, W, Transition Year 1, and Transition Year 2. For federal reporting, for EDFACS data files, and other federal reporting, use the English language background classifications listed below for the following subgroups. English Learner or Limited English Proficient means English Learner or Wave Direct ESL services. Former EL being monitored or LEP being monitored is Transition Year 1, 2, 3, or 4. To check your data in EIS, log in as an LEA or school user. Select Data Reports and Research Queries. Select the English Language Learners Research Query. Choose an English language background or choose all. Year is pre-populated as 2024 for the 2024-25 school year. To run the query, select View Report. To download in CSV or Excel format, use the file icon to the right of Find Next. The query results include English language background, native language, birth country, and date first enrolled in a U.S. school. As you examine your data, review the business rules on the next several slides. Native language is never English for L, W, 1, 2, 3, 4, F, or N. Native language is always English for E. Enter native language for all students in your SIS. SIS packages may default to English if the native language is not entered. Native language will not upload as blank or ENG to EIS if English language background was L, W, 1, 2, 3, 4, F, or N in 2017-18 or later. Complete birth country for all students to ensure that your data are correct. Student Information Services, or SIS, packages may default to U.S. if the birth country is not entered. The date first enrolled in a U.S. school cannot be uploaded as blank if an English language background was L, W, 1, 2, 3, 4, F, or N in 2017-18 or later. The date first enrolled in a U.S. school also cannot be uploaded as blank if the immigrant flag was Y in 2017-18 or later. Enter the date first enrolled in a U.S. school for students in grades pre-K through 12 who meet the English language background or immigrant criteria described above. As of 2017-18, the date first enrolled in ESL is not collected in EIS. The number of school years the student has had of EL support and has not been reclassified as Fluent English Proficient, which would be transition years, collected in EIS as of 2022-23. It is required for new students in Tennessee public schools. It is optional for existing Tennessee students. It was added for TISA, used in tandem with a calculation based on enrollment history. It appears on the student details page in EIS production, along with the calculation. Since the business rules for date first enrolled in a U.S. school and native language on Extract 40 are tied to the English language background on Extract 41, English language background is a required field on Extracts 40 and 41 for the 2017-18 and subsequent years. The English language background is set and edited on Extract 41. English language background is included on Extract 40 only for validation. Extracts that include blank or invalid English language background values generate fatal errors and will not load. Here are some suggestions to improve data quality. Regularly collaborate with attendance, early learning, EIS, federal programs, and other colleagues to ensure that your data are coded properly. Frequently check your data in SIS and EIS and upload revisions as needed. For additional information, please refer to the FPO Data Manual. If you have questions about the English Learner Program, please contact Hannah Gribble, Title III and Migrant Education Program Grant Manager. For questions about English Learner data and coding, please contact Trish Kelly, FPO Data Manager. For EIS errors and restaging problems, please contact the District Technology Support Team. Thank you for participating in this webinar.